Hello, I'm Joan Brown. It's my great pleasure to host this segment of the Marin Women's Hall of Fame show. Since 1987, the Hall of Fame has inducted over 140 Marin women of distinction. Women who have made immense contributions to the County of Marin and its residents, as well as to the world beyond. Honorees have distinguished themselves in many fields: education, science, business, philanthropy, the arts, politics, law, philosophy, religion, and more. Each honoree has been a force for positive change in our community. It's a great privilege to acknowledge and document their contributions. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Pat Kendall, who is being honored in 2020 for her unwavering dedication to community service. So Pat, welcome. And let's begin with how it all began. Tell us about your family and your childhood, and who were the major influences in your early life?
Okay, that's a good question because it's one of my favorite subjects. I was very lucky to be raised in San Francisco in a great neighborhood. My parents, like all the other parents on our block, moved there when they were young, bought their houses, and actually, like my parents, they lived their last days there. It was really my first community, and it was fun because my parents and all the other parents were so interested in each other's kids. And we were welcomed into each other's homes, and I like to think about it as I was invited to their table, and I've carried that on into my adult life, particularly with the community. But my story is a little bit unique in the fact that I'm the youngest of three, and I'm the only girl. And my dad was very fortunate that when I was born, that his career was growing. He had been a letter carrier, delivered mail. He had joined the union, he had worked up through those ranks. And when I was getting into my first grade, he became a national officer in the National Association of Letter Carriers, so that's across the whole United States. So his job on the western United States took him to California, Hawaii, and Nevada, and then always to Washington, D.C. So he was a man who went from delivering mail and being home every night to traveling. And then as the years went on, my mom traveled some with him. But my mom was very lucky in the fact that we had the great neighbors. My grandparents lived around the corner, and my aunt and uncle lived at the end of the street. So knowing after traveling a little bit with them how great it was for them to do what they did, I was perfectly happy with them doing it. But it allowed me to go to one house on Friday nights for hot chocolate, another one I slept overnight, the other one I went to San Jose the next morning. So I just had a lot of love. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, particularly the love of I had one very best friend and one I called my golden friend. And I had the love of their mothers and fathers, so much so that I realized how fortunate it was to have the love of your own parents and your own family and your grandparents, plus the love of these people who didn't need to love you. So I grew up knowing the importance of that, and that's kind of one of my basic tenets in life, and that is that it's really important to love other people's children as much as you love your own. You realize the different influence that you bring. You never are their parents. You never should act like that. You should be, you should be as close as the parents will let you. But I do think it's a wonderful gift in life to be able to have. My dad actually died when I was pretty young, and when I think back to his stories, he was quite a storyteller. He and my grandmother told what I call true stories, and he said some funny things to me, but I got it at the time, but I really got it later on in life. He said to me once that you never go to a doctor who can't write your name and address by heart, and he also apologized to me many, many times for me not being delivered by an obstetrician where my brothers had. He had turned to a general practitioner. And what I got from that later on is that my dad realized that healthcare was personal, that healthcare was something that was intimate, and that we needed to treat it as such. And why my father was so interested in that is that in addition to his work nationally, he was the administrator of the health plan for all of the letter carriers across the nation. So that was really a big deal to him. So I learned a lot of those kinds of things from my dad. But I learned some really valuable things from my mom. When my dad died, that was my first experience with death. And the way that my mother responded to it, dealt with it, was so gracious. She had a calmness in her pain. Does that make sense? She made sure everybody else was okay. She came second. And from that, I got out of it that dying and death is very sacred, again, very personal, very intimate. And it became comfortable for me. And so, you know, it's fortunate in my profession to see death as something that I don't shy away from. And in all difficult situations, I'm more apt to go towards them than away from them. And I owe that to my mom.
Wow. So when you say truthful stories, you mean it with a grain of truth?
Oh yeah. They, my grandmother, unfortunately, had lost her youngest son on his graduation from high school. I had never met my uncle. He had left this world long after. I was born long after he had passed away, and I could tell that story as well as her. She would tell it over and over again. That was one way for her comforts, and for me, it was something that I enjoyed hearing. And my dad talked a lot about his work, and actually when I was about 8, my dad took me to USF College in San Francisco, and we visited a Jesuit priest by the name of Father Boss. And I watched my father and this priest work on the first labor relations course for his area of work. And so I knew I was learning about leadership and relationships, but it didn't really registered me until I found myself in a leadership role with lots of human resources and lots of working with union partners. And I have to say that just that little bit made me grateful, made me respectful, and it went very far in my career.
So was there a particular point in your life when the importance of respect was kind of like an aha moment for you?
You know, there really was, and it's a simple story. I hope it's not too simple, but it was I'm Catholic, and I made my first communion when I was 7, and we took a trip to Walnut Creek to go camping. From San Francisco. I felt we were driving forever, and but anyway, when we got home, which was a month or so later, my mother said, well, gee, did you want to go to confession? I didn't really want to, but I said, okay. But the most perfect person in the world picked me up to take me to confession, and that was my grandfather. And my grandfather had a beautiful baby blue Chrysler that matched his eyes and his nice tawny skin. And he was the only one in our family who was not Catholic. And my grandmother and my parents would always said, the best Catholic is my father and my husband, because he was such a good guy. And I remember exactly that day, him driving, and he parked right alongside the side entrance to the church. And he let me get out, and I ran in so fast, the church was empty. I jumped into the confessional, and I forgot my words. I did not know what to say. And the priest was not too happy with me. He was very stern, so much so that he made me cry, and I ran out. So I ran out the door, ran there, and my grandfather was leaning against the car. And my grandfather was the first man to call me sweetheart, so he's got a place in my heart because of that. But anyway, he jumped out of the car and said, what's wrong? And I said, I forgot my words. And he was really, really mad at me. And he said, well, you wait here. And so I got in the car, but he left the door open, and he walked up, and he knew these priests because he was the bingo caller on every Thursday night. And so anyway, the priest walked out, and I heard a little bit of what he said, but he said to him, you know, I don't know what happened in there, but I think she forgot her words. And you know, and I'm sorry for that. He apologized for me, which was sweet. And then so that priest was kind of, like I said, they knew each other. And then my grandfather said, you know, it's really important not to make little girls cry. And the priest said, you're right. And I could see also the handshake. Yeah. So I saw my grandfather come back in one of the most hurtful situations that I had, display for me the graciousness of that. But I'll tell you, I felt respected. I felt
Yes.
respected by my grandfather,
Yes.
and I felt the renewed respect by the priest. So I know that's kind of a silly example, but that was the day that respect dawned on me. And that was kind of, I do a lot in life to connect dots. And like I talked of earlier about the people who showed love, they also showed respect. There was really, kids were respected on the block I grew up on. And I think that's what has helped all of us love our street, think of our street, reminisce about our street, get together.
And
So,
that respect has been the foundation for
Yes.
your leadership, hasn't it?
yes,
So you just mentioned, and I've heard you say before, that healthcare is one of the most intimate experiences that you do in life. How do you engage your teams at Kaiser Permanente to remember to show that respect and to keep that as a basic tenet in healthcare?
okay. Well, I've had, again, the unique privilege to talk to every new employee in new employee orientation, their first day, their first hour. And within that hour, among other things, I talk about guiding principles. I talk about that if you haven't thought already about coming to work for us, you need to. You need to test our mission, vision, and values, see if they align with yours. And if they don't, that doesn't mean you leave. That means you share with us yours. We see how we can make that work, et cetera, et cetera. And so then I say to them, so I do want you to think about what yours have been and what you think they will be in your new job. And I say, among other things, I have one, and that is one of the most intimate things we do in life is to seek health care. I repeat it again. One of the most intimate things we do in life is to seek health care. Wait for a little bit. And so then I ask them that to think about the intimate things in life that they've done, have done, would love to do, and would seeking health care have been any part of that? And they all say no. And so I asked them to consider that, particularly for the next hour when we talk, and they all agree. And I've talked to now 10,800 people in that time, and that 10,800 people, I will tell you, so many of them have come back and said, I get it. I get that healthcare is sacred. I get that it's personal, and it's something I need to respect. So it's an important sentence to me, and I really do believe it.
So when we were talking earlier, you shared that you had people write down what their most intimate experiences were, and that not one of them had declared healthcare.
That's right. That's right.
Which to me was
seeking health care.
Yeah, seeking health care.
And I think that I say seeking health care because it's your experience in health care, which is the intimate act, if you will. Yeah.
So you have served on multiple boards. You are you have an incredibly intense, busy, deep, long-houred job, and you do all this community service. So why is community so important to you, and how does that work with this important job that you have, and how do you do work-life balance and so on and so forth?
Well, you said a lot in there, and let me see if I can ferret it out.
Sorry.
First of all, I have a hard time with the word balance in life. I learned a long time ago from somebody wise that said that every day we have crystal balls and rubber balls, and it's our responsibility on that given day to keep all the crystal balls in the air. So I always look at it as juggling more than balancing. So I try to, and I will tell you that my community work are most always crystal balls, and they work because I value them as such. And so why do I value them, and why do I do it? Number one, I believe that all the people I've come in contact with, we haven't really spent hours talking about this, but I see it in what they do, I see it in how I feel, and that is we all feel a sense of responsibility that our organization needs to be at certain tables. Our organization needs to give to certain tables. It's not so often that we go to get, but we go to give and contribute. And to me, that's important because there are so many things we can do better as a whole than we can separate. And most important, that we go in as a whole to move together as whole and not in a competitive way. So I think that I'm drawn because I think it's a responsibility, but I'm there because I think we can help. And I'm there because I go back to my first community. I was a part of that, and I want to be part of this. I also feel that there's a word, it's participation. I think it may become a lost art if we don't work on it, and we don't espouse it, and we don't invite others to join and do that. So I really do think that when you're in a community, you do need to be participatory.
So it's kind of like an homage to the greater community you grew up in.
Yeah.
What are some of the boards that you currently serve on, and where you found meaning?
Okay, well, right now that I'm on Healthy Marin Partnership, and Healthy Marin Partnership is an extraordinary organization, which is really teeny, but it includes everybody. and we came together, it's been in 1995. There was a new Senate bill that said all not-for-profit hospitals need to do an assessment of their community. And we were fortunate in Marin, healthcare in Marin, people should really know how fortunate they are of the people that they have that are leading, supporting, making it work. That we figured we had one community. We might have had 3 or 4 hospitals at the time, but we had one community. So let's do it together. So we came together, and we had piles and piles and piles of information on the health of the community in the broadest sense.
Yes.
And as we looked at it, we decided the law did not require that we do anything about it together, or even that we did it together, but we came back and we looked at it and we started working on it together. And we've been working on that together since 1995, and we've made some enormous strides and accomplished some great things. So Healthy Marin Partnership is a real proud moment, hopefully for all of Marin County.
Is this just among the hospitals?
No. It's the law is written for the hospitals, but it's always been that we've had Health and Human Services who actually, we feel like we're in doing this, we're a partner. We're working for and with them because they are the ones who are providing the whole health for the community. So we really kind of have a reverence to the people in Health and Human Service, and we've had extraordinary leaders in Health and Human Services.
With the county.
With the county. Marin County Office of Education is there. The Marin Community Foundation is there. The business community is there. And I'm probably forgetting somebody, and I apologize, but those are the main players that are at that table. But we have over 400 people we consider partners that are working in organizations that they feel that that they are a leader or a contributor to health.
400?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. So you're also on other boards?
Yes, I am. I don't want to leave too many of them out. North Bay Children's Center, which is a wonderful organization that I feel that has the magic to the future of healthcare, and that's a strong start for kids, their minds, bodies, and hearts. They've done some tremendous work over the last almost 30 years. I'm also on Hospice Board, which is a real gravitational pull for me because of my my sense of beautiful endings at the end of life. And there's beautiful people, amazing business people on that team that really care. Schools Rules is a great program. People who aren't aware of that, all the schools in Marin have private foundations, or the public schools have these foundations on. Probably not the right word, but anyway, and they raise money for their school. Well, about 15 years ago, the idea was floated, why can't we combine some of that money? Because in one community, you may make $1 million, and in another community, you may make 10. And we have, And there is probably over the last 10 years, many millions of dollars that has been commingled from that and given from other people. And then it's distributed $1 to every child. And depending on how many children you have and how much money was acquired during that year, the schools get this money to work on technology, education, the arts, health, and it's wonderful the things that they've done. And I've also been sitting on the Agricultural Institute. I just stepped off of that, and that was formerly the Farmers Market. And that's an extraordinary organization as too. And those farmers are some of the smartest people I've ever met. And their dedication to keeping agriculture in Marin and the surrounding communities, and also caring about what we eat and how we live.
So I kind of want to circle back a little bit for a minute now. You were trained as a nurse?
Yes, I was.
And you had other education and degrees?
Yes.
And how has, so why don't you just kind of share what that is, and how has your experience as being a nurse impacted your being an administrator of a huge division?
Well, you know, it's interesting. When I was a little bit, I can't say lost, but I knew I wanted to go to college, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, because it was kind of lore in my family that by the time I got to college, my family might be back in Washington, D.C., but that all got whisked away years and years before that. But so I didn't know quite what to do, but my best friend always wanted to be a nurse. So I applied to the same nursing school, went to her, and we were roommates in nursing school. So I followed her.
And where was that?
St. Joseph's in San Francisco. And I followed her dream, and it became mine as well.
Good.
And you know, I had an affinity right away for the emergency department, labor and delivery, these kind of beginning and endings of life, you know.
Yeah,
so nursing, I really, really enjoyed. My real dream as a child was to see if some way I could get to the stage. And it was once I got into nursing, and particularly the emergency department, I said, wow, I said, I found my stage. I said, because it is, particularly in really critical situations, it is preparation, it is directing, it is, you know, ad-libbing for what needs to come in, and it's just an amazing part of nursing.
So then did you get training in administration too?
I did. After I graduated from nursing, I later on went back and got a degree in business. And then I did some postgraduate work at Stanford and UC Berkeley. And then I actually went to, when my mom got sick, I needed to be in the city more often. And so I thought, why don't I go to one of the master's programs at USF, and something that I wanted to be better in. And so it was in human resource organizational development and leadership. So I went in the evening time, and then I spent the night, and then I spent the next morning with her. And so that gave me a day in the week, middle of the week, that I was with her as well. So that really enriched my, how should I say, my portfolio to take the medical and the business and the leadership piece.
Great. So I've heard you say every day is a job interview. What does that mean?
Well, I don't say every day is a job interview, but I do say every day is an interview. And I'll tell a quick story. I was at a dinner, and I was sitting across from someone I considered a good friend, one of the superintendents of schools. And I was telling her a story, or him a story, and all of a sudden he said, I've got a better one. And I said, you do? I'm going to tell yours. So this is his, and I'll make it very abbreviated. He's standing in the schoolyard of an elementary school, and his kids are coming in, all the kids in, and he sees one little guy coming in that he knows, and he's crying, and there's somebody different with him. There's a young girl with him. And so he could see the young girl is looking around and is kind of shepherding him. And so he goes up and says, may I help you? And she said, I saw this little guy on the street corner, and he was crying, and I was driving to school, and I knew the bus had gone because my brother was on the bus. So I stopped, and he said that he had gone home, and he shouldn't have because he thought he forgot something. Nobody was there. He didn't know what to do. So she told him, I know you're not supposed to get a ride from somebody, but I will take you, and I will talk to the school. And that's exactly what she did. And so anyway, superintendent thanked her, and off she went. And so I think she was a sophomore or junior in school. So finishing high school, went to college, out of college, became a teacher, and one day he was interviewing for elementary school teachers, and or middle school, I forget which one it was. And in walks this young woman. He recognizes her, but she doesn't recognize him.
Oh, interesting.
And so he says, he asked her a couple questions, and then he said, "When can you start?" And she said, well, is that the interview? And he said, I always cry when I say this. She said, "You interviewed for this about 7 or 8 years ago. You know, you were the little girl who came." And she said, "Yes, I was. How did you know?" And so the point is that you had said to me once that, you know, you always have to watch your first impressions because you can never return that. Well, this is kind of the tagline to it. Is that's true about first impressions, but about this every day is an interview, and every day after that, you continue to be meeting people and them seeing you and them, you know, getting a perspective of you, good, bad, or indifferent, right. And also influencing one way or the other. So you have to be mindful of that. So I do tell everybody I know all the time that every day's an interview. So. And I think of that little girl in that story and that wonderful superintendent who trumped my story.
Oh, that is great.
Yeah,
that is great. So, what would you like your legacy to be? Your work legacy, your personal legacy?
Oh gosh, you know, I actually had to, because you had said to me, you know, what is your legacy a little while ago? And I said, I had to look it up. I said, I mean, I know what I think the word meant, and I realized that legacy is something you leave with people, yes. You know, not to people. Yes. And it's more about you and what you think and what you believe or what you've espoused. And you know, some of the things I've already said, I hope I leave that with people. But one of the things that's truly, truly important to me is work environment, personal environment, is value and respect. Because I think if you can show people continuously value and respect, I think that you're doing a lot for the individual, you're a lot doing for the collective, and we're doing a lot for this world. Because I do think that, as simple as it is, that human kindness and making sure that you have people feel better, you know, and it's probably a bit of inspiration, and I'm very easily inspired. I kind of attach, inspiration with what I call intrinsic reward. Is that you can't always be expecting, you can't always be needing extrinsic reward. You have to have that chip inside of you developed so that you can be in a situation and see it, and it really makes you a better you. And so I would like to say that my legacy would be she had a sense of value and respect, and that intrinsic reward was really important to her and for others to develop.
You also mentioned that you've got to know your customer, and you've got to know your place, and self-reflection, and I think those are pretty important too.
Those are kind of slang. and I used to say them to the little kids in my life, you know, got to know your customer, got to know your place. And essentially what I need is got to know your customer. It means take time to know the people that you're with, be it a huge audience, be in a one-on-one, being at your own child someday. Do that. And got to know your place means that make sure that you have good introspection and good sense of who you are. So
what are your hopes for the community of Marin? What do you think are the greatest needs that need to be addressed?
Well, you know, I would really, really sit back and smile if we could pay attention to upstream. We know what we have in the past, we know what we have now, but we got to make sure the future is okay. And what do I mean by that? Is that we need to curb the number of chronic conditions that people get in later life. Now, some are absolutely due to their genes or heritage, et cetera, but some of it is due to our lifestyle. And we really need to make sure that kids from the very start are okay, that kids get a good preschool education so that they get a strong start, and that, that the next generation of kids read at the 3rd grade level, graduate from high school, 2 years postgraduate. That's the person who has been espoused to be the most healthy. And I think if we have health in our community for each individual, I think we're going to go a long way.
And your definition of health is not just physical health.
No, that's
but
absolutely.
It's the whole thing. Pat, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
being
You're
here
welcome.
today and sharing your stories, your incredible life. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in.